How's it going, guys?
We are not live yet.
Yeah. Are we live? Okay, there we go. Yeah, guys. Unfortunately, this is not. Hopefully, as weren't fooled by the title. They did not release a 16-team tournament. This is just. This is what would have happened if they would have done this. And before we even get started, the way I did this was I looked at the last AP poll, and I just went through 1 through 16 and just made basically one piece of a bracket like this, 1 through 16. And I'll go through the names in a second. But wait a couple more minutes here. Yeah, unfortunately, this is not what I wanted to be doing at this time of the year. But due to the circumstances, this is we
had to work with.
Yeah, we have to work with this for now. Let's see. Okay, let's cover a couple comments here. If they were to do that, you dang well better believe Kentucky is in. If Kentucky didn't make the top 16 teams, you would have seen an insane video on this channel. I can tell you that right now. In fact, it would have probably been us driving to the NCAA office for a confrontation video, but luckily that did not happen. Mountain Warriors, any March Madness will be good. Thanks, guys. Lee Martin, let's run them in simulation and wager on it. I wish we could. If we could do that, I would. But yeah. And then Mountain Warriors, Kenny, do you like zebra cakes?
I like zebra cakes, man.
And then one more thing. Lee says, "Is that a brew, Kenny? Is that beer?"
It is not beer. It is Fresca.
And this is water.
I might drink beer tonight.
Okay, and then Cameron Watkins, what's up? This is BS. They canceled. I agree. Trust me. If you want to check out our reaction to when they did this, it's the second to last video or last live stream we did, and we were not happy. I mean, we were more mad, honestly, the night before when they said no fans, because we were starting to get the sense that they might. Someone even said in our live chat that that they might cancel the whole thing, and that person was right. And then Lan, what's going on? Roman, what's going on? Good to see you guys in here. And then last comment here. Coronavirus says, "What can I say? I'm a North Carolina fan." I know, seriously.
Guess so.
This is definitely the year to not make the tournament. That's for sure. But hey, let's get into the bracket here. So, like I said, it's the top 16 teams from the last AP poll, and so the first 4 teams that were the first 4 out. The first 4 out would have been the Virginia Cavaliers, the 17th ranked team. Then Wisconsin was next, Ohio State, and Auburn. So those 4 would have just barely missed this tournament, which would have been very frustrating for those teams. Honestly, any team that was in the top 64, but especially in this situation.
Ohio State would have?
Yeah, so yeah, the first 4 out in this tournament would have been Virginia, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Auburn. So sorry, Bruce, for not making the.
Well, Virginia, you won it last year, so.
Yeah, Virginia, you had it last year, so you had a good year. Wisconsin would have probably been frustrating for you guys. Definitely Ohio State. Just barely miss out. And yeah, Auburn, sorry guys, you did not make our 16 team tournament.
Reactions bracket.
So let's see here. Okay, so let's go in order here. I'll read it and I can move it closer so you guys can see. But yeah, so the number one so the number 1 team would have been Kansas playing the 16th ranked Seton Hall. What are they? Seton Hall well, Seton Hall was 16th. Next would have been, or should we go game? I'll go in order of the rankings. So the 1 seed was Kansas. The 2nd seed was Gonzaga. The 3rd seed was Dayton. 4th seed was Florida State. Then at 5 would have been Baylor. 6, San Diego State. 7, Creighton, which that one kind of caught me by surprise. I did not really know. It's fine. You can just say it's fine. We'll talk about it in a second. But yeah, Creighton, I've watched Creighton a couple of times, but I did not know that they were that highly ranked. So that was kind of surprising to see them above us. And then at number 8 is the Kentucky Wildcats. So technically speaking, if this was the real tournament, we would have been, I guess, the last 2, which was what I was hearing a lot.
Not according to ESPN. They apparently want to just keep dropping slower.
Yeah, I did see us as a 4 in some mock brackets, which I didn't really like. The 9 seed was Michigan State. 10 seed was Duke. 11 seed was Villanova. 12 seed was Maryland. 13th was Oregon. And then 14th was BYU. 15th was our rival, Louisville. And then the last team getting to the tournament was, when I just said before, Seton Hall. So let's go to the first game here. It would have been Kansas, the 1 seed versus the 16 seed, which was Kansas versus Seton Hall. Kenny, do you have any thoughts about this one before I give my prediction? Or before you put something?
Kansas looking like the most dominant team all year. They were throwing chairs around at one point, but even with some player suspensions, they were still winning. I definitely think they were the most consistent team, so they're going to destroy Seton Hall. They would have. Will and this made up.
See, Seton Hall for us, I mean, I actually didn't get to watch this game last year, but a year ago, there's a guy named Miles Powell, I think is his name. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he destroyed us a year ago. I know it's a year ago, but he was a really, really good player for Seton Hall, and I think he would have put up a lot of points considering this was his senior year. I think he would have came out pretty strong in this kind of a game, but at the end of the day, I think Kansas was just too much for Seton Hall to handle. I mean, Udoka Azubuike is just a force down low, and I just don't see how Seton Hall could have had an answer for him. And their point guard is really good too. Devin Dotson, he's a really good point guard. Apparently, I didn't get to watch Kansas play much this year, but obviously looking at their record, 28-3, that's a pretty good record, and they're a really good team. I think at the end of the day, I think if it was close, I think Seton Hall might pull it out because Miles Powell can make those big-time shots like he did hit some against us, and he's hit them throughout his entire career. I know I see Mr. Matchman wants us to take Seton Hall. Trust me, I would want Kansas to lose, but in this prediction right here, I'm gonna have to say Kansas wins this game. I think they're just too much for Seton Hall to handle, and Kansas wins. I'd say probably. I think their defense is really good. I'd say they hold them to 60-some points. Kansas wins 78-65.
Should we do like the vote of the three of us and then outweigh it or what?
Well, that's true.
Just kind of if we did you Dan, then it'd be the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do
the
it.
tiebreaker.
So
it applies to this.
So Kansas is moving on to the. See, hold on, I forgot to do that. So this is the first round, second round, or no, wait, this would have been the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Elite Eight.
This would have been the Elite Eight, Final Four, and then title. So, guys, Kansas just beats – so, in our simulation, Kansas beats Seton Hall 78-65. Moving them over.
So, zoom in for a second.
I'll move it in. So, guys, as you can see, this flipping poster. So, Kansas beats Seton Hall. This is backwards for you guys. Let us know, but I don't think it is.
I think it is.
No.
Wait,
guys, it's not backwards. Okay, I'm about to say.
I have a test screening.
So, guys, the next game would have been a big game for us. It's actually the first rematch of our mock tournament here is Kentucky versus Michigan State. And the funny thing about this is going into the actual selection Sunday, this would have been yesterday. That was the one team that I did not want to play. And then in our mock tournament, that is the exact team that we would play in the first game. But personally, in my opinion, it definitely didn't help that we beat them in the first game of the year going into the second matchup. But I think at the end of the day, obviously Michigan State's a solid team. Cassius Winston's a baller. Xavier Tillman's a beast down low. But I just think just like the first game went, if Kentucky was going to attack the glass, or not the glass, obviously that would help. But if they attack the basket hard, and I think how many free throws did we take that first game? Because I think Maxey had 14 free throws by himself that entire game. If we would have done that, attack the basket, I think our guard play would be too much for Michigan State to handle because obviously Michigan State has Cassius Winston, a really great point guard, but we have 3 really great guards. Obviously, Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickly, who's probably the X factor in this tournament, and Ashton Higgins, who is going to be coming back.
If he's playing.
I'm pretty sure he was in practice. He was going to play in this SEC tournament. I just think that say if Cassius Winston took Ashton Higgins, who's going to guard Maxey? Obviously, Michigan State has good players. I mean, it's not like they just have 2 players. But there's one other guy, I think his name's Rocket Watson, maybe. I know his name's Rocket. I can't think if that's his first or last name. This would have been a tough game no matter what. But I just think Kentucky ultimately down the stretch makes enough plays. Emmanuel Quickly hits a couple late threes. Maxey, I don't see Maxey having the same type of game because he went off the first time. He still would have had a decent game, but I think Quickly would have been the X factor, and Richards getting a couple of key blocks late. And I think Kentucky wins this thing. We'll each give a score prediction, then we can just say. I would say Kentucky wins 74-70 in a really, really tight game where we had to go on a couple of runs late to pull this thing out. So I have Kentucky winning. Who do you have?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm going to lean towards Kentucky, obviously. But I think this is definitely a game I would not want to see as a Kentucky fan because we beat them earlier in the year. Massey went off. And obviously, you don't want to see any team you've beaten before in the season. Mm-hmm. But in a big game like that, in a big team like that, you obviously don't want to see them again because they would be due to win. But I think Kentucky obviously beat them one time. And so I think they can definitely beat them again, and they would beat them in this game. We would have to score 70 to win.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd say 76-68.
76-68?
Yeah.
So, and then
do
you want to –
74-69 from the cheap seats over here.
So
wait, what's
we each have Kentucky winning. See how we each have a different score.
We're going to the same score as Mountain Warriors.
I like Mountain Warriors. You heard about that?
If we each give a score, how are we going to put the score on the board?
It's fine. Just go with yours. You're the owner of the channel.
So, guys, we're going to say Kentucky wins 74-70 in a tight game where I also think Michigan State probably was going to go on a big run early because they would have been really motivated. Not that we weren't going to be motivated, but obviously we beat them the first time. So I think ultimately that we win 74-70.
What's up, BBN? UK all the way on the bracket.
From the cheap seats. Shoot. Are you okay? Hold on, hold the screen for a second.
Gee.
Okay, guys. So Kentucky. Listen, guys. Kentucky moves on to the Elite Eight. They're gonna play. Hold on. Kentucky's gonna move on to the Elite Eight. Sorry, guys. Someone just stepped on our cat a second ago. He's okay.
That's not
a good sign for Kentucky in that game, but let's see. Let's catch up the comments here. Christopher Reese says Pirates. So you thought Seton Hall was going to win that first round game? I think they obviously could have. They're a really good team. I just think ultimately Kansas would have won that game, but I really don't disagree with you too much on that. Lee Martin says Kansas by 12. That's pretty close to what I said. I said Kansas by 13. So really good prediction there. Mountain Warriors, Caddyshack, a classic, Rodney. And then Mountain Warriors, where's NKU? Unfortunately, they were not in the top 16 teams. They definitely would have made the field of 64, but not this tournament here. Even though that's where I go to school, I still couldn't put them in there. Let's see. Lee Martin, 5th out west. We could have made a run playing the Zags to go to the Final Four. I definitely think they would have put us out west, especially if we'd have lost in the first or second game of the SEC tournament, which we never got a chance to play. Mr. Matchman 93, Kansas cheats, make them lose. I know. Once again, trust me. I could see Seton Hall winning, but we haven't moving on for now. But I don't know if they're going to make it past this next round. But we'll see. Lee, Kansas covers 88-72. Line would have been minus 11 or 12. Yep, exactly where I was at. Let's see. Christopher Reeves, I agree, would be close. A really close game against Michigan State. And then Mr. Matchman 93, love what you guys do. Will you do this again next season? We will be the best team in the country next year. Preseason number 1, fellas. Go Big Blue. Well, hey, next year we'll definitely do a mock. That's even if there better be a tournament next year. I'm not even going to think about not having a tournament, but if there is, we'll draw it up like this maybe, and or at least put up a bracket, and we'll go through our thoughts for sure of the bracket. And we'll do a live stream during Selection Sunday. So we'll do a lot of stuff with that. Hopefully we can try to do this again with the actual tournament next year. So Mr. Masham, we should definitely do it again. And I'm all with you about us being number 1 next year. Hopefully we're not, because there's nowhere to go from there. But we're definitely going to be a talented team next year, no matter what. And it's really going to depend on who we get to come back from this team, because we obviously have the number 1 recruiting class coming in. But that'll be a later video where I'll talk about our guys coming in and who should be coming back. So, yeah, I'm excited for next year too. I'm always excited for each year. Mountain Warriors agree all the way. Christopher Reese, 78-70 Cats. Boulder Vaughn. What's going on, Boulder Vaughn? Boulder Vaughn is here. Lee Martin, paper towels at Costco today. There were paper towels at the stores we were at today. What's going on, Miami Canes all day? And then Lee Martin, limit 2. Yeah, it was limit 5 for the toilet paper at Kroger. But let's move on to Terminator. So the next game would have been – so those 2 games, Kansas would have moved on, beating Seton Hall, and we would have beat Michigan State, moving on to an Elite Eight matchup. But the next game would have been Baylor versus Maryland, which is the 5-12 game. This is definitely a game. I've watched Baylor a couple times. Maryland, I've watched a couple times too. This one's definitely a tough one for me. But honestly, Baylor's defense was so good in the games I watched and all the scores I saw. Obviously, they did lose a couple times late. I'm not ignoring that. But in my opinion, I think Baylor would have won this game because their defense would have been too much for Maryland to handle. And a guy that I actually played against in high school, Maceo Teague, who was a big-time player for Baylor, I think he would have made some big plays down the stretch, and Baylor would have pulled that one out and definitely won that game. My score – we'll get the score. I think Baylor would have won that game.
I mean, I'm not really familiar with Maryland. Not familiar. I'm familiar with the school, but saying their team this year, I really haven't watched them. I'm going to be honest, but I know Baylor is really consistent, so I definitely think Baylor will get this win for sure. They were looking good the whole year. So
from the cheap seats, I'll take Maryland. ACC.
So Barry's taking Barry's
like Big Ten.
But two beats one.
Wait, what did you say?
Maryland.
Barry's taking Maryland. So we both picked Baylor, but Barry picked Maryland. So the 2-1 goes to the So here's but yeah, I think Baylor wins this game. In my opinion, Baylor, like I said, their defense would have kept Maryland below 60 points, which is saying something. But I really think I really think Baylor wins this game probably. Let me see. What's my score? Kenny. Okay, sorry guys. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty here. Baylor wins this game. I'm going to say 86-. That's a lot of points for Baylor. I understand that, but I think Baylor wins this game 86-58. That's a major win right there. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to take that back. That is a major win. That's way too much. I'm going to say 76-54. That's still pretty good. But I'm going to say Baylor wins 76-54. I'd say almost 20-point win, but like I said, Baylor's defense is really good, and I'm not very high on Maryland. The one game I watched, they couldn't put it in the basket against Michigan State. That's one game, I understand, but it was at Maryland, and not a good look for them, and I just think in this position, Baylor, this is their year, and Baylor wins this game 76-54, and they win it handily. So Baylor's moving on to the Elite Eight. The next game would have been Florida State versus Oregon, the 4 versus 13 game. So 4 versus 13 would have been Florida State versus Oregon. In my opinion, this is probably the first upset I'm going to have in the tournament. I will let you guys know before I send out my prediction. Florida State would have. I did not watch Florida State play one game this year. I saw a couple scores, obviously, but I watched Oregon a few times. Florida State would have. I did not watch Florida State play one game this year. I saw a couple scores, obviously, but I watched Oregon a few times for Sam. It's Peyton. Is it Peyton? Yeah, it's right here. Peyton Pritchard. He is, in my opinion, he could have definitely won player of the entire year of college basketball. And I think this is my first upset of the tournament. I'm going to say the 13 seed Ducks of Oregon beat the number 4 seed Florida State in a thriller in overtime, 85-82. That's my prediction. Who do you think would have won that game?
Florida State wins. I'm going to be honest. There's been a lot of teams I've watched this year, but I've not really. I was watching Oregon, I guess, but I really hadn't watched Florida State. Who's even on Florida State's team?
Well, that's the thing. I couldn't really. That's the thing is I really couldn't name you guys any players for Florida State. Oregon. That player for Oregon, Peyton Pritchard. I'm not sure if you really know who that is. It's a little guard who's an absolute baller. He was unbelievable in all the games I watched, and he made some big time shots, like on the road, at home. He was a good player.
In this scenario, I just picked the higher seed. I'd pick the 4 over the 13 any day, and especially in a scenario where I'm not really sure. I remember Oregon winning some games early, I feel like, but I would go with Florida State.
But you got to think though, the 4 and 13 is not really a 4 versus 13. It's really like a 2 versus like a 3.
Well, but anyway, I would pick the higher seed.
So you think Florida State?
In this scenario,
Barry, who do you think? Oregon or
Florida
Florida
State from the cheap seats.
Well, because that's 2-1, we're going to put Florida State by, even though I really disagree with that. I think Oregon would have won that game in overtime. Obviously, Florida State could have won, but I just think Oregon, this was their time with Peyton Pritchard. So Because you guys think, what's your score prediction since you guys think Florida State's going to win?
It's not even worth giving a score
I
prediction.
said-
I'm so
Florida.
Okay, guys. So Florida State's going to move on. I don't know what the score is. We'll see. Let's just go ahead and say 76-74 on a buzzer beater, because obviously it was a toss-up in a lot of our opinions here. 76-74, and then the next game, guys, would have been 6 versus 11. The 6th seed versus the 11th seed, which was San Diego State as the 6th seed versus Villanova as the 11th seed. Ken, you want to start with this one?
Well, it seems like San Diego State always makes a run in the tournament. It seems like they're always that team that comes out of nowhere, at least to me. But Villanova usually make it by a couple rounds and blow it. Usually, in my experience. But so I think I'll give Villanova the win in this one because I'm used to them advancing in the bracket. They usually do. Then they feel like they usually blow it. So give it to Villanova.
So you're taking Villanova. I'm about to agree with you. I think San Diego State was a little bit hyped up, and I think this would have been for this kind of a tournament. If this was a real tournament, they were a 1 seed. I think they would have probably won a couple games against a 16 seed, a real 16 seed, and maybe the next round possibly. But in a tournament like this, where they're playing a solid team in Villanova, who, like you just said, I actually disagree. I think Villanova, as much as I don't like them, they've won a couple championships in the last couple of years, and they have some players that have been there. There's a guy, I can't think of his name. It's like, oh, goodness. I can't name it right now, but I watched. There was one possession I watched in the game when they were playing Temple, and they threw the ball around the court probably 10 times on one play, and it was the best ball movement I've ever seen. And just that play alone just told me what kind of a team they were. And obviously, the way that they play is tough basketball. They pass it around. They play team basketball. And I think this would have been too much for San Diego State to handle, especially knowing the fact that San Diego State would not have played a team like Villanova since maybe the entire season. I don't know who their best game was, but I think Villanova would have been close to start, but towards the end, Villanova would have pulled away and won this thing by probably 11 points.
Nova.
We all take Nova. I'm going to say 60. I'm going to say 71-60.
Another Wildcat.
So the Wildcats of Villanova are moving on, and they won 71-60. The next game would have been the 3 seed versus the 14 seed, which this is honestly the biggest surprise in my opinion, who the 14 seed was. The 3 seed was Dayton, which I wasn't surprised about that. But the 14 seed was BYU. I had not seen them play. I take it back. I saw them play one game, but they did not have a great record to start the year. So I was kind of surprised to see them, to hear the fact that they actually came back and must have won out. I think their record was, let me see here. What was BYU's record? BYU was... once it loads, I'll let you guys know. So Villanova was moving on. Let's see. BYU was 24-8. So I guess that's not a terrible record, but I just think in the conference they were in, it needed to be better than that to be that high of a seed. But that's just my opinion. But in this game between Dayton and BYU, this was Dayton's year. And as a Kentucky fan, I feel devastated for anyone that's a Dayton fan. Because, I mean, how many times is Dayton going to have a team like this with a player, that great player, Obi Toppin, another great player, I can't think of what his name is, but I think Dayton would have ran with this thing. This was Dayton's year. I think they would have had a pretty good run. And Dayton beats BYU, in my opinion, by, I think, 20 points. I think they run away with this one.
Yeah, Dayton definitely wins this one. They clearly had one of the best teams. They had the best years for Dayton, so they definitely win this game for sure. I have them winning by 10 or I have them winning by over 10. Probably can't hear me anymore, but
You can hear you.
Flyers.
How much do you have them winning by? Right, do you think they
I said
run
over
away with
10.
it? Over 10.
I mean definitely over 10.
Okay, so we all take Flyers. I'm going to go ahead and just make the executive decision. I'm going to say that they win this game. I think they win in a blowout, 86-70.
Lee was big on that one.
Okay. That's a good point. I'll catch up the comments here in a second. Lee Martin says, and they would have been playing in Ohio, in an Ohio site, exactly. So they would have had the fans rocking the place. It would have been a home court advantage. BYU was not going to travel that far to play Dayton. What?
If there were fans allowed.
Well, if fans are allowed in the building, we're doing this, guys, in a world where there's not people being quarantined from buildings and stuff. And
This
we're
is
not shutting
pre-2020.
down. So Dayton would have been moving on. And let's see. I'll catch up some comments here. I'll finish the first round, guys, and then I'll catch up with the comments, okay? The next game, guys, there's only two matches left of the first round. The first one would have been, or the next one would have been Creighton versus Puke.
Creighton.
Unfortunately, as a UK fan, as much as I just despise Duke, I think obviously they're not a bad team. They were going to be close to they were close to us. They were only 2 seeds below us, or 2 spots below us. I think this would have been a really good game. Creighton's a good team. They play in a great conference, but unfortunately for Creighton, Duke is a player named Vernon Carey, and I think he would have been too much for them to handle down low. And Trey Jones is a really good player. Cassius Winston. No, not Cassius Winston. Yeah, Cassius Winston. No. I tell you about Cassius Stanley. My bad. Cassius Stanley would have had a couple of major dunks in transition, but Vernon Carey would have been the deciding factor in a close game, but late. Unfortunately for us fans, we would have been watching close, and Duke would have been getting rebounds. Vernon Carey would have been dominating down low, and unfortunately, I'm going to say Duke wins the game, but let's see. Maybe I'll be overruled here by the 2 other voters. So, Kenny, who do you think wins this?
Duke's winning this game. I can't see – Duke just doesn't lose in the first round. That just doesn't happen. I mean, when's the last time a Duke team has lost first round? Because I'd be rooting against them, they would win. And that's what would happen. So, they would definitely win. No matter what happens, they're winning this game. And, yeah, they're not losing the first round. That just doesn't happen. Not in our
Barry, what's your prediction?
Blue Jays in an upset.
Blue Jays in an upset. Unfortunately, it's 2-1 on the vote, so we can't go with that. But obviously, I would have loved to see that result. But here's the funniest thing: we always complain about Duke getting a lucky seed and draw in the bracket, and this is a bracket that we created, and they still got a good draw. So you got to love that fact right there. So I think in this game, Duke wins it in a weird type of game, because that's usually how they always win in weird games. I'm going to say they win this game 70-63. That sound right?
Yeah, they wouldn't blow them out. They would just.
It would have been back and forth. It would have been absolutely back and forth. And you know what? Creighton would have had a lead late too, and they would have blown it.
Yeah. And we would have been rooting for them. They would have been up by 20 to 10 minutes.
Hopefully not 20. They were up 20. They would have won the game. And then goes the last first round game. It's Gonzaga versus the Cards of Louisville. Kenny, you want to give your prediction on that one first?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Gonzaga, I can't really remember just watching Gonzaga play this year. I know though I do remember Louisville playing, and they were definitely really good. We played them earlier in the year, and it was a close game. They have some amazing players, and I guess they're 15, but they would end up in the real bracket? They'd end up like a 4 or 5.
They were 15. So 4s would have been 1s. The next one would have been 2s. Next ones would have been 3s. It would have been like a 5.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, I guess I thought they were going to be higher than that by the end of the year.
Oh, but the selection committee would have put them as way higher. Yeah, no.
Yeah, so
it's just rankings.
They're definitely a really good team. I think Gonzaga is pretty high. I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched Gonzaga this year, but I'd probably – I'm going to give it to Louisville just because I watched them this year and more aware of their team, and they're really good. And Gonzaga, I feel like, is a team that doesn't play too many people during the year. Is that right? Is that the team?
Gonzaga is obviously
– they're
not bad, but I mean, yeah, their best win, in my opinion, if I can pull up their schedule here. I mean, they beat Texas A&M, who's not very good. They did beat Oregon by 1. They lost to Michigan by 18 points. And really, other than that, they really don't have any other good wins besides maybe the couple games against BYU and St. Mary's, if you really want to count those as good wins. So I agree. I think that's usually when they would lose a game, is the Final Four or Elite Eight, when they start to play really good teams.
I think Louisville will be winning by a little bit the whole game, and then eventually pull away between 5 to 10 points. Not by a lot. But.
I would agree. I think Gonzaga has some really good bigs. I did watch them play a couple times. They have some really good big players. They would have been definitely a force down low to handle, but no one could have matched their guard play. and like Louisville wise, and I think Louisville would have definitely. I mean, they have some good bigs too. That guy's hook shot. Did he ever miss a hook shot against us?
No, he didn't.
I don't think he did.
Like 5 or
Yeah, I think Louisville wins this game. It would have been a close game to start, but Louisville wins this thing by probably. I think they win by 10 points too.
Their tall guard.
Yeah, I think Louisville wins by maybe. I'd say Louisville wins by 10 points. I'm going to say, goodness, Louisville scores a lot, so I'm going to say they win 80-7. Or no, I keep saying that. I think they win 84-74.
Cards 81-76.
81-76. So a little bit closer game for you.
67-61.
So we all have Louisville winning, right? So let's just go ahead and say we can meet in the middle somewhere. They win by 7, 84-77. So Louisville wins 84-77. Hopefully that's a 7-point win. I'm trying to do math here.
Yeah, it is.
So we have our Elite Eight set. I'll show you. I'm going to catch up the comments in a second, and also show you guys this bracket so you guys can actually see it better.
18
Okay.
left.
So guys, here's the Elite Eight. So there's the upper bracket. Can you guys see that pretty well? Can this be seen pretty well?
That's Mount Warriors. Mount Warriors, can you see it?
Mount Warriors, can you see it in there? Or New Mania? So that's the upper bracket. And then the lower bracket is right here. Gosh darn it. Can you see that? Can someone tell me?
Yeah, no, a little bit that way. Yeah, there we go. It's good.
So guys, okay, let's catch up the comments here before we get into the Elite Eight matchups. Sorry guys, I'm trying to keep up with everything here. Mountain Warriors says Maryland over Baylor, 82-79, a good game. I think it would have been a good game, definitely. It definitely would have been a good game. Lee Martin, Baylor rolls 84-59. I was definitely more on that side of things for that. And you said BK is drunk. Mountain Warrior says BK is sober tonight. Did step on the cat's tail though. Sorry. Is he okay?
Jake, the cat. Our grandma's cat had the garage door shut on the cat, and it was perfect.
Yeah, no, that's a different cat.
It's their cats. They have 9 lives.
Lee Martin says Florida State rolls. Don't like the Pac-12. I do agree with you on that. I think the Pac-12 is definitely easily the weakest conference out of the Power 5. But it's not really Oregon that I was confident in. I was just confident in that Peyton Pritchard guy. I think he was really a great player. And if that thing was how I think it could have been and turns into like a back-and-forth scoring fest, that plays right into his type of game. And I think he would have basically helped lead them to that victory there over Florida State, which would have been obviously the biggest upset in my opinion. Even though we have Florida State advancing because there was 2-1 on the votes. I was the only one that picked Oregon, but Barry and Kenny both took Florida State. Let's see. Lee Martin, Mountain Warriors, Nova over the Pretenders, 75-64. That's a pretty good score prediction right there. Landon, what's going on, Landon? Lee, wrong. San Diego State. Okay, they definitely could have won. It's really hard for me to say. The one game that I really watched was when they lost. But, of course, I really turned it on because I saw they were losing. But, obviously, they're not a bad team. I'm not trying to say they're bad. I just think when you don't play against competition, hard competition, that really makes it hard to get back into that mode. And especially in a 16-team tournament, you're playing someone really good out of the gate. There's no really, like, warm-up game in this thing here. So I think that's what makes the difference in my opinion. Let's see. Landon, BYU is good, man. They beat Gonzaga during the season. Hey, I'll take your word on that, Landon. I really did not watch BYU much. I think there's a player on their team that I'm really high on. He looks like he's like 40 years old, but he's still in college. He's been there for a long time. I can't think of his name, but he's a really good player. And I think if they would have won, he would have been a big reason that they won that game over Dayton. Because once again, both teams, Dayton, they're a local team, so I feel for them. But I think that would have been a back and forth game. And for what I saw, in my opinion, I think Dayton wins. But obviously, I wouldn't be surprised either way if BYU won that game. And I would have definitely looked forward to watching all these matchups, but definitely that one right there because of the local factor too. Let's see. Both Mountain Warriors and Lee both took Dayton, even though Mountain Warriors says Dayton in a close one, but Lee says Dayton in a huge cover by 23 points. That's kind of where I was at, though. I think we ended up having him win by 16 points, so we're on that side, Lee. And then Landon, after this, can I talk about the NFL free agency craziness? Hey, before we go, we'll definitely mention that, okay? Don't worry. We could do a separate one, too, if you guys wanted me to. And then let's see. Lee Martin, Duke close, even though Mountain Warriors wanted the Blue Jays to win. Landon, I'll get into that NFL stuff before we close it off, okay? Don't worry. And then, Lee, there is a lot of news to cover.
Let me take Mountain Warriors.
Mountain Warriors, going to cover that one.
Well, Mountain Warriors, love that site. They bring up a good comment here. Elite Eight, UK's home lately, are late, unfortunately, need Final Fours and championships, and I completely agree with that. We've had good runs under Cal. We do have one championship back in 2012, but UK needs to get over the Elite Eight hump. A lot of good games played in the Elite Eight. We've come up short. Need to get over that hump. Hopefully we will here tonight with our bracket. As you can see, this is the Elite Eight here. Need UK to move to the Final Four and eventually the big championship here again to hang a banner.
So, guys, we're caught up here. Both got Lee and Mountain Warriors comments. So let's see here. Let's move on to the Elite Eight. The first matchup in the Elite Eight was going to be a big one for us, which is the number 1 seed Kansas versus the number 8 seed Kentucky Wildcats. This would have been a first-time matchup because we have not played Kansas till last season at Rupp Arena. This would have been a really, really tough game. It would have been a matchup type game. Let's just start with the bigs. Udoka Azubuike versus Nick Richards. I think Richards this would have been a really tough matchup for him because Richards is a really good player, but that guy is a force down low. He weighs a lot. He has a lot of pounds on him. I think if we would go at him quick and get him in foul trouble early, that would have been a big deal for us getting this victory. But the guard play, once again, is where I think we have the edge. They have Devin Dotson, no doubt about that. He's a great player. But we have 3 guards that are really good guards. In Ashton Hagens, Manuel Quickley, and Tyrese Maxey. I just think he can't guard all 3 at once. And if we go at Udoka Azubuike to start the game, get him in foul trouble, once again, I think in that one-on-one matchup, I think Richards would have lost that matchup between Azubuike and him. I was trying to imagine how he would have guarded him because you really can't play physical. He could have played physical. I just think it would have been I could just see Richards getting a couple quick fouls early if he would have tried to post him up. So you have to front the post and not let him get the ball. But ultimately, down the stretch, I think a deciding factor in this game would have been Keon Brooks, who was really starting to come into his own in that Florida game. I think Brooks would have had a couple of major putbacks late and a dagger 3 by Tyrese Maxey from the top of the key to seal this one. Kentucky wins in a really high-scoring affair, probably, in my opinion, 87-83. That's a really tough game, but I think Kentucky wins this thing by 4.
I think what he brought up there, it's a huge challenge for Richards. He probably would not have met it like we would wanted. But if he plays good, he could have definitely made a difference. And I'm going to think that he would have played decent enough with Montgomery and the rest of the team chiming in. This would have been a battle. I mean, this game here would have definitely been 2 heavyweights meeting. As much as I could use Bill Self's hairpiece, I'm going to have to go against it, take Cal over Bill Self. Reminiscent of 2012, and UK is winning this game. I'm going to say 78-73.
So I had them by 4 and you had them by 5, so it's pretty close. I'll meet somewhere in the middle and go with Kentucky 83, Kansas 79.
Hey, Mountain Warriors, how you doing?
So, guys, we're going to have Kentucky winning this Elite Eight matchup between Kansas and Kentucky. Kentucky wins 83-79. That would have been a thriller game right there. A great, great game.
Two blue bloods.
So Kentucky guys is moving on to their would that be their 18th Final Four?
Lee, I bet you Lee would know.
Yeah,
Lee is very knowledgeable. How many Final Fours
18?
does this make? How many Final Fours, Lee? In our fantasy bracket here.
Guys, we'll wait on that stat. Let's see. Boulder Vaughn says Big Blue wins it all. Hey, we'll see. Right now we're in the Final Four. We just beat Michigan State in the first round in the 8-9 game, and then we just beat the number 1 seed of the entire tournament, Kansas, in a close game, 83-79. Both games he won by 4 points. That's kind of crazy. Those have been crazy games right there, but that's usually how games go.
You my vote on it?
Mountain Warriors. You agree with Barry?
No, my vote in the thing actually me.
Oh, Kenny, who would you think? You think Kentucky wins?
Yeah, I guess.
That's good.
I guess.
Kenny's in the cheap seats now.
So Kentucky
He's going big
wins.
blue.
The next not Final Four. The next Elite Eight game would have been number 5 Baylor versus number 4 Florida State. This would have been a really tough game, and I'm not very high on Florida State, so I'm gonna have to go with, in my opinion, Baylor. Their defense gets it done. Defense wins championships. Maceo Teague has a big game, and there's another player, I can't think of his name, but he's a really good guard / forward, and I think he would have made some major hustle plays, not like a huge dunk or anything, but really good deflections. And Baylor wins this thing in a kind of back and forth game. But then because Baylor's defense is so good, they maybe stretch this thing to a 7-point win. And I think Baylor wins 79-72.
Yeah, I think athletes all over the floor here. I'm not as well versed on either one of these teams, but I'm going to have to agree with the defense wins championships, especially in the tournament. That's what makes the difference to advance typically. So I'm going to take Baylor in a real close one, 80-79 over Florida State.
So you have a 1-point win. Kenny, who do you think wins that game? Baylor or Florida State? Baylor. So we all take Baylor, guys.
The Bears.
He had him by 1. I had him by 7. So I'll I'll try to meet somewhere in the middle there and say they win by 5. Or win by 4. Let's say 60 or 74-7 or no 75-71. Sound good? Baylor wins 75-71, and that will set up a Baylor-Kentucky Final Four matchup right there. So Baylor's moving on. I'll show you guys this bracket in a second here once I add Baylor over.
Cats versus the Bears.
Okay. So, guys, here's the first Final Four matchup. It's set.
We're back in the Final Four, where we want to be.
We beat Kansas 83-79, and Baylor beat Florida State 75-71.
A little bit farther back.
I'm only trying to show the top right now.
Well, it's still okay.
Serious. Look good on my screen.
Just half of left.
So, guys, the next Elite Eight game would have been the 11 seed Wildcats of Villanova versus the 3 seed Dayton Flyers. Once again, I think this was a special year for Dayton. They don't have this kind of team very often. This is the first time in a while that I remember Dayton being this good. And I think they ride that Obi Toppin this entire game. They have another really good guard who can hit threes. And Villanova's a good team, don't get me wrong, but I think this was Dayton's year. It would have been a really, really close game. And I think Obi Toppin gets a tip-in for the win, and they win this thing 68-66 on a tip-in buzzer beater.
Yeah, being here in Cincinnati, we've heard a lot about Dayton. They've always had a pretty solid program, under the radar. Had a great year, so I would take them in this game over the Wildcats from Villanova, 75-71.
So you have them by 4, I have them by 2. Let's go by 3 and say they win this thing 71-68. Okay, who do you think?
I have Dayton winning.
Kenny,
and he's got the Flyers too.
He's over there eating food.
And,
I mean chips. I wanted to eat some chips.
Sucking down some more Fresca.
Like really close 68 or really close Elite Eight game there. Then the last Elite Eight game is the Puke Blue Devils versus the 10-seeded Puke Blue Devils versus the 15th seed Louisville. In my opinion, Duke, like I said, they're good. They're not a bad team, but I think Louisville was a better team, and I'm not just saying this because they won at Cameron Indoor, but Louisville did win at Duke Stadium this year, and I think it would have been the same result. Too much for Puke to handle, and Louisville wins this game by 8 points, 76-68.
Yeah, I honestly, it's hard to pick a winner in this game. I don't like either team. That's due to a lot of rivalry things, games in the past. So I mean that in the best way I can. I respect both programs. They're both good. But I'm going to have to go with the Cards over Duke in this one. And this would be a barn burner game. I'm going to go with 84-82.
Okay. So 2-point win. I'm by 8. Who do you have in this one? Louisville or Puke?
I think Duke would win because Louisville likes to blow it against Duke.
You think Duke would win? Well, Louisville did beat Duke at Duke this year.
This year, yeah.
So what are you doing there? Kenny from
I
the
think
cheap
Duke.
sheets
I think Duke.
So
says
Kenny takes Duke, but
Duke.
we both take the Cards. So the Cards are going to advance, winning by, you had them by 2, I had them by 8. So let's go with a 5-point win, 75-70. So sorry to the Blue Devils, Puke Blue Devils. They've lost in the Elite 8 again.
Kenny.
And Louisville is moving on to the Final Four, and the entire Final Four is set. It's going to be the 8-seeded Kentucky Wildcats. I'll tell you in a second. Let me move them over in a second.
Looks like Lee was going to take Dayton as well.
Okay, guys.
Baylor.
Here's the updated bracket here. So the first Final Four matchup is the 8-seeded Kentucky Wildcats versus the 5-seeded Baylor Bears. The other Final Four game is the 3-seeded Dayton Flyers versus the 15-seeded Louisville Cardinals. That's kind of crazy that they're the 15 seed, but they're a really good team. And once again, this is not a normal 15 seed. This is like 15 seeds are technically like a 4 seed or a 3 seed in the real tournament. So this is just the top 16 teams in the country. So the first Final Four matchup is between our Kentucky Wildcats versus the 5th-seeded Baylor Bears. So once again, we would be the underdogs coming into this game. I think Baylor would be favored by probably 5 points going into this game, maybe 4 points. It might get lower depending on what's going on, how we're playing. But ultimately, I think we shoot really well for the first time in a while in a Final Four game. I think we light it up. I think we hit 10 or 11 threes total in this entire game, and we ride that momentum, and we just outshoot and outplay Baylor, and we win this game by – I mean, it's a Final Four game, so there's rarely ever blowouts, but I think we hit a lot of threes, and we have maybe an 18-point lead. Baylor cuts it back down to like 6, but then Quickly, who's been our leader all year long, gets a big-time shot from the corner, sticks it, and we win this thing by 7 points. Let's see. Because once again, Baylor probably hits a 3 late to cover if it was a 7-point. If they were – we'll see. I don't know what the spread was going to be exactly. But I'd say Kentucky wins this thing 83-76.
Yeah, I think Kentucky obviously gets this done. Now, I see this we would have to find our defense, which we've done okay at.
Yeah, we would have definitely
but I
pick it
think
up.
Kentucky would win with good defense. Setting up for the Final Four game on Saturday, it's a weak build-up. Probably would be a little off as far as their shooting, being under pressure. So I'm thinking it'd be a lower-scoring affair of 65-62 UK in a defensive battle. And I think Sestina would step up huge in this, and our free throw shooting would get it done for us.
See, I agree that I think usually all those games are always tight because of the stage. I was just saying we shoot really well just because I feel like we're due to shoot really well in a tournament game like that. I mean, in the past, like I just think that at some point we're gonna have a game where we shoot really well in a big time game because usually, like you just said, it's like a really low scoring game. Free throws are a big deal, defense. But I just think in this situation, I just think our shooting would have overwhelmed them. And we would have had a great shooting day. We're just so due to have that in a big time Final Four game. But
I would much rather have it like you have.
Yeah, we both have Kentucky winning ultimately. Kenny, who do you have winning this game?
Kentucky.
Kenny took Kentucky. Wow. That's a shocker right there. So let's say we'll meet in the middle. Since you said 3 and I said 7, let's go with 5 and say we win this thing. So I'll agree that's a little bit lower. I'll say that we win 76-71.
Lee's taking the Cats over the Bears as well.
And the reason we win this game is because Sestina hits a 3 late and quickly nails some late free throws. Because let's say Baylor cut it to 2, but quickly hit some big time free throws at the end when they try to foul him, and we don't let him come back.
Who remembers the last?
And that was Kenny. Who remembers the last time we beat Baylor? I think it was in 2012 in the Elite 8, I think. And we thought we lost Davis in that game. Somebody rolled over on his knee.
Yep.
We thought the season was over, but he was all right. Came back. We won the championship.
It's a good point. So Kentucky is in the national championship game.
First time since
2014.
2014, and we
6
lost
years.
to Connecticut.
Kemba Walker. The next Final Four game is the 3-seeded Dayton Flyers versus the 15-seeded Louisville Cardinals. Let's see. In my opinion, let's see. Before we get to our predictions, let's catch up the comments here. Boulder Vaughn, Big Blue wins it all. Movie Mania, go Big Blue, go Big Blue. Lee Martin, Kentucky wins again. Yep, good prediction. We definitely picked that too. And Dakota not first. Hey, you've been really good. You've been the first viewer on a lot of the videos being uploaded this week, so I give you credit for that. So yeah, you're good. This was set up earlier today, but not crazy earlier today. And then Lee, Dayton versus Kentucky for all the marbles. We'll see. Let's see what we take.
That's where I'm going.
And Mountain Warrior looks like Mountain Warriors agrees with Barry again here. we haven't predicted yet.
Love you, Mountain Warriors. They've got a great side.
The next Final Four matchup would have been the 3-seeded Dayton Flyers versus the 15-seeded Cardinals of Louisville. I guess you know what. I think Louisville was a really good team, but once again, I think it's this was Dayton's special year. This could have been out of 50 years, like their best year in 50 years. Do you guys agree with me?
I do. I mean, they've been
Dayton.
Yeah, they've been solid.
Maybe.
So I think Dayton wins this game just because it's their year. Obi Toppin has a big-time game. Some guys step up that they're not used to stepping up because it's just their kind of year. And it'd be a back-and-forth game. And it's a pretty crazy prediction, but I think they win this thing 93-91 in double OT.
That's a good prediction. I think Louisville's luck runs out. Dayton, I think, is more talented, and Dayton gets it done. I'm going to agree with Jake. It's going to be under 5. Whether it's in regulation or OT, 88-84.
Okay. So that's really close to what I just said. Who do you have winning?
I mean, it is Dayton's year, but I'm going to go with Louisville winning this game, and we get a rivalry championship.
But unfortunately, it's 2-1 on the vote, so Dayton is moving on in their miracle year, and they win this thing in just one overtime, 82-80. OT. That's the first overtime game in the tournament. I don't think I had anyone else. If I did, I can correct that. But then, guys, this sets up the championship game. What Lee Martin just said. It's between the number 8-seeded Kentucky Wildcats versus the 3-seeded Dayton Flyers. So I'll show you guys this right now so you guys can see this. What the championship game looks like.
UK back home.
Oops. Okay. You see that?
Looking for our
9th national championship.
National championship.
This would have been a big-time game. I think Lee would have made some major cheers in this game. I think Lee would have done a big-time pumping of his fists late in the game on a big-time stop. In my opinion, I think Kentucky. This would have been a very stressful game because I think Dayton would have been riding their hype train most of the first half, but ultimately, our size and talent overwhelms Dayton towards the end of the first half. The second half, Dayton comes out strong. Kentucky would be up by, I'd say, 10 points at the half. Dayton comes back, cuts it to like 1 or 2, but then our guy Emmanuel Quickly comes up with some big back-to-back threes, and we just absolutely dominate in the glass. And we keep this thing above 8 or 9 because that's usually where we've been all year long. But for the first time all year, we stretch it out to a 15-point lead, and we win this thing by double digits, 82-71. In our 9th national championship, bringing home the 9th title to Lexington, Kentucky, and we'd be running the streets on April 1st or 2nd, and it would have been our year. Kentucky wins.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Kentucky as well. I mean, a lot to put into that, but Cal's experience as a coach helps us get it done with our free throw shooting that have been solid all year. And in these games, once again, the jitters are there, so playing defense, all kinds of things come into play, and I'll go 68-63 for UK's 9th national championship. Hang that banner, even if it's fantasy.
Kenny?
We already hung it, but why?
Who's your champion?
Well,
who's your 2020 national champion?
I mean, Dayton is having a miracle year. Is having a miracle year. I didn't make my answer.
You better not say it.
Dayton is having a miracle year, obviously, but you know who else had a miracle year? It was Kentucky that one year when we went on to go to the championship and then we blew it. But this time it will be Dayton blowing it and Kentucky will win by a good lead. Like
okay, so I think let's ultimately say, guys, Kentucky wins this game. 80 is a pretty high number, but I think we hit some shots and they foul us a lot late, so we had a lot of free throws and we win this thing 82-71.
Yeah, we make our free throws down the stretch, and most players show up. We got a lot of guards, got a lot of shooters. We win.
Kentucky wins 82-71, bringing home national championship number 9.
Yeah, and why don't we go through the road to the championship?
So
what Kentucky had to do.
So, guys, let's go through the one shining moment for Kentucky. I will read this comment. I agree with what Lee Martin just said, and I'm gonna double this one in a second. Okay. So the first game, guys, Kentucky wins 74-70 in a rematch against Michigan State, and it's really, really tough game, like we all agreed it would be. And I think that the MVP of that game, the key player winning that game would have been who would you say? I think in that game alone, I think I think the return of Ashton Higgins would have been a big deal. But just like the first game, it wouldn't be Maxey this next time. But I think he would have made some plays. I'm going to say E.J. Montgomery is the key factor. I take it back. Hold on. I'm going to say Emmanuel Quickly is a big deal in that game. And quickly helps us beat Michigan State in the first round. The next game would have been the Elite Eight against Kansas, where we won by 4 points, 83-79. And the key player in that game would have been the guard play, all three of them, not just one player, but all three of the guards would have made the difference in that game to help us secure that win. And then in the Final Four matchup, Kentucky beat Baylor 76-71. And I think the key player in that game would have been our rebounding ability, and I think Richards would have had 7 or 8 blocks, and Nick Richards would have been the reason we went to the championship game. And in a championship game between the Dayton Flyers and Kentucky Wildcats, Kentucky wins by 11 points, 82-71, in a game where Tyrese Maxey goes off. He earns his one-and-done title, and he is the MVP of the game, along with other guys making big plays. While Tyrese Maxey takes home the MVP of the championship game, Emmanuel Quickly takes home the biggest play in the championship game by the biggest plays by hitting back-to-back threes early in the second half when Dayton made a comeback to try to take the lead against us. So the Kentucky Wildcats are the national champions of the 2020 16-team tournament. Tyrese Maxey was the MVP of the championship game. Any other thoughts of the tournament here, do you think?
Not really.
No other thoughts?
Well, I mean, I do think I was gonna say the Kentucky-Baylor game. I wasn't really ready to comment on that. I did think that would be. We played Baylor in the past. I think that would be an overtime game. We would win in overtime. I think just Baylor is really good, and that'd be a close game. And I got my little window, and I think that'd be a close game, but Kentucky would win in the end. And someone's getting colon cleansers over there.
So, guys, that's our projection simulation of if they would have had a 16-team NCAA tournament. Obviously, Dayton would have had a major run here, having an overtime win in the Final Four. They would have beaten Villanova and they would have beaten BYU in the first round. I think the biggest disappointment of this tournament would have probably been Duke, just because their expectations are pretty high too, and they would have lost in the Elite Eight to Louisville in a game by 5 points. I still think Louisville would have been the biggest surprise just because of their seed, even though I think they're a really good team, but being a 15 seed. But yeah.
Reboot it.
Let's see. Karen or let's see. Boulder Vaughn says, yes, we would have won this year. Makes me so frustrated. I agree. I know. It's beyond. It's honestly, we're at the point where it's like I still don't believe it because we're supposed to be getting ready for the first four tomorrow night. And the fact that we're not playing it just drives me crazy. But just got to think we had a really good year for what our expectations were, and just hope for the best. Maybe this will spark a lot of guys to come back. Maybe they'll make that rule where seniors can come back for another year. And just hope for the best. Obviously, we have the number 1 recruiting class coming in. There could be great things from this, and let's just hope we get guys to come back. But I agree. We are hanging the banner. This would have been our 9th national championship here, beating Dayton in the championship game. And the Martins would have been running the streets tonight. That's for sure. Lee Martin, Maxey would have had 17 points, 5 assists, 2 steals, and he would have taken home the MVP. I agree. Mountain Warriors, you said it too. MVP Quickly and Maxey. I think, like I said, Maxey would have been the MVP of the game, but Quickly would have made the biggest play of the game. Or I ultimately think our size and length would have been too much for Dayton to handle towards the end. I mean, they're good, but I think we have a really long team with guys like the guards are huge, like they're wingspans.
Quickly is definitely the player of the year.
Yeah,
player of the team.
Quickly is the SEC player of the year for a reason. Dakota, I don't think Dayton has the experience against strong teams. That's very true. They've not played against very many big games, so this would have been a crazy tournament for them. And I think ultimately, kind of like when your luck runs out, you just can't get all the way there. Like we've had that happen a few times in our tournament runs. I think in this situation, Dayton's luck would have ran out, and Kentucky would have they would have just won the game. And I think the guy I haven't really mentioned, Nate Sestina, would have made major plays late. And he, like Kenny says all year, Nate Sestina would have hit a couple threes from the top of the key in the first and second half to help keep this lead. And yeah, I agree.
That's it.
No, remember you always said Sestina 3 at the top of the key.
Yeah.
Mountain Warriors, UK 68-63 over the Flyers. Good vibes to all of BBN. Lee Martin, Nick would have been a big deal too. I think we'd have, like I said, 7 or 8 blocks in this game. Or did I? Yeah, I think in the Baylor game too. I think he needs to have 5 blocks a game probably, or 3 or 4 blocks a game. But one of these games he would have had a lot of blocks, in my opinion. And then Mountain Warriors, can't wait for Hoops and the Big Blue to come back. Agreed. Lee Martin, 9. Yeah, it would have been the 9th national championship. Lee Martin's San Diego State would have gone further. That's very true. I agree with what you're saying there. They did not make it past one game in our bracket here. I could see where people could disagree with that, and I could definitely see San Diego State going on a run. If I'd have watched them more and knew more about them, maybe I would have taken them. But I still think that would have been a tough game for them to play against Villanova, even though they're not the same Villanova that we're used to seeing. But I agree. San Diego State probably could have gone further. I agree with that. And then Mountain Warriors says free throw shooting and defense wins championships. That's very true. And our defense, believe it or not, or if you don't want to believe it or not, if you look at our stats, maybe not the last game or the game before that, we were holding every team we played to below their season average of field goal percentage. And that's the stats don't lie. And obviously our free throw shooting, I'll say it right now, this was the best free throw shooting team in the entire Calipari era, in my opinion.
It's a big turnaround.
This was we had Quickly was absolute nails. Maxey was nails. Richards was nails for a big guy. Juzang could hit him. Honestly, everyone on the team could shoot. Montgomery started hitting more of them. EJ was making more of them. There's been teams that have shot free throws well, but I still think this was our best free throw shooting team in the entire Calipari era, which just drives me insane. Because if you think about our last 2 losses between the overtime loss to Auburn and who was before that? The loss to Kansas State. We lost those games for a lot of reasons, but a major reason was the free throw shooting. I don't even want to tell you guys how many free throws we missed last year against Auburn in overtime.
Well, Washington missed like 20 himself.
Exactly.
And that was definitely the thing, is that the year before, that was one of our biggest weaknesses. And that is such a big turnaround this year. It's one of the biggest turnarounds, is not being able to – missing 20 to 30 free throws possibly in the last game to having one of the best free throw shooters in the country and having everyone who can really shoot.
Yeah.
Other than Whitney, who left. The only one who couldn't.
Exactly. And honestly, Kentucky would have that game against Auburn last year, we missed 6 or 7 1-and-1s. Believe it or not, it's unbelievable.
So that's even more than what.
But yeah, but you're right. Washington alone. See, that's the thing, is Washington scored. I know we're getting another thing here, but Washington scored 30+ points, but he missed like 20 free throws. We could have had 50 points, but it's just crazy. Exactly. So really frustrating the fact that the tournament got canceled this year. No conference tournament, no NCAA tournament. Just got to hope for it to come back next year. Cannot wait for March Madness next year. We'll do a live stream for Selection Sunday. We were planning on doing it this year. We'll just tons of stuff to look forward to next season. But just for videos of this channel coming out soon, guys, I've posted the Quickly, Richards, and Maxey highlight videos. I have the Higgins video basically locked up and ready to go. I'll be posting that. Yeah, Higgins will be posted in the morning. That video is basically all locked up, ready to go.
Get everybody locked up.
And then after that's out, probably expect to see an E.J. Montgomery video eventually, and same with Brooks and Juzang and Sestina. I have all those guys. The videos aren't done, but I'll be making those videos. And I'm also, Kenny and I are both working on the best reactions compilation from our live streams of this past season. That should be out. I'd like to say in a week, but I don't want to put a timetable out so you guys are like looking forward to something that doesn't come out. It's going to come out. It just depends on how fast we can get through all the games and see what our best reactions are. But that video's been coming out. And like I always say, once I'm able to get a couple of DVDs from our past reactions of games from the 2014 tournament on, I'll be able to rip the files off those DVDs and actually edit them. So the next game for there, I've actually already opened it up in my iMovie. It's Kentucky versus Wisconsin in the 2014 Final Four when Aaron Harrison hit the game-winning shot. And expect that video to hopefully come out hopefully in the next couple of months. That'd be really nice if I could get to that. And there's just so much footage for you guys to see. It's kind of frustrating. It's like there's so many reactions I want you guys to see. So much funny stuff for my uncles and just all of us watching games. There's just limitless footage, and I can't wait to get that stuff out to you guys. I'm excited. I'm really excited to get that stuff out to you guys so you can see it. So if you guys watch that Michigan one, I'm sure you've already watched it. It's going to be that kind of format. The full game reactions are just like all the points, like probably like 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. But then the bad moments reactions video for the games too. So 2 videos per game. There's like 12 games to get to. That's a lot of videos for you guys to watch. But yeah, let's see. Lee Martin, true. The last 10, we were positive on all trends. The Tennessee game was a perfect shot in the arm. Exactly. I totally agree with that. We honestly, as frustrating as we were that game, we needed that. We were saying it. That could be a great thing for this team. And it's just really brutal. I'm going to tell you guys one more stat after I read this other comment. Lee Martin, spread out the content. Not much on it. Not much on right now. Hey, I agree. That's why, I'm going to try to get as many videos as I can out. Like I said, the Higgins video will be out tomorrow, and the other 3 or 4 players will be out in the coming days after that. So you got those videos to look forward to, the live stream reactions, and obviously the UK reactions from past games, 2014 and on. So there's plenty of content for you guys to see. Expect another video talking about our roster, what our potential roster for next season. I'll definitely do that video at some point. And as guys make decisions of like going pro or not going pro, there'll be live streams for those, if not just videos. So tons of content to come out. Can't wait to get all that stuff to you guys. Really appreciate you guys coming in here for the our simulation of the 16-team NCAA tournament if they would have done it for 2020. I'll post this to our Twitter. I'm going to put that in our description of these videos here soon. I just started a Twitter like a couple days ago, and I'll take a picture of this and post it there so you guys can see this because I'm not sure how well you can actually see it on this live stream. Unfortunately, our equipment is not the best, so I understand it's kind of blurry for you guys. But I'll get that picture on Twitter so you guys can see that better. And just tons of stuff to go. I know we're in the early stages of this channel, and I'm hoping I can get the equipment better, the sound better, and just all around getting more footage to you guys. Like I said, we have hours upon hours of footage for you guys to see, hilarious reactions, just so much content. And I'm just so excited to get all out to you guys. It's really awesome for you guys to come in here and watch this on such short notice. And, yeah, really frustrating way to end the season. But like I said, videos are going to keep coming out. Plenty more content to come. And really appreciate you guys coming in here today. Go Big Blue. Kentucky beat Dayton for the championship game in our mock tournament here for only a 16-team tournament. Kenny, any other thoughts to wrap it up here?
No, sounds good.
So guys, thanks for coming in here, guys. Be ready for the next video to come tomorrow morning. It'll be Higgins video, the highlight video, and yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. I'm not sure when the next live stream will be. It'll hopefully be soon, depending on the news and stuff that comes in. I'm not gonna forget if Landon's still in here. I forgot to talk about the NFL thing. I might do a separate video for that. There's a lot of news going around. The biggest one was DeAndre Hopkins got traded to the he got traded to the Cardinals. That's a big deal right there.
Browns might trade Hunt.
And the Browns are looking to maybe trade Hunt. They also signed Austin Hooper, which is a big sign right there for us. So good, big time, another weapon to add to our offense. But we're Browns fans. Okay, so guys, one right now. Lee Martin, thanks Jake and Kenny. Hey, no problem, Lee. Hopefully we'll get together here soon for some kind of get together. Even though I know it's no more March Madness, but we'll definitely see you soon to talk. Hopefully get together soon for a get together. Boulder Vaughn, thanks y'all. Hey, no problem, Boulder Vaughn. Dakota, can't wait. Hey, appreciate all you guys. Even if you guys aren't in here, if you're watching on a replay, appreciate all you guys that watch these videos, that are subscribed, and just can't wait to keep doing this thing and seeing you guys and talking to you guys soon. So appreciate all you guys, and we will talk to you guys soon. Go Big Blue.
Yes.
Hey, Dakota, I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns. Hey, take care, guys. See ya. Go Cats. Go Big Blue.